What is going on, everyone? I am Vamppy, and today I have the long-awaited update on how to make large murals and images in Warframe after all the new quality of life updates that have happened in the game. I'm going to show you step by step on how to get started on making these really cool displays in your orbiter and anywhere else in the game that allows it. So let's get right into the tutorial. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is we're going to go into decorate mode, and we're going to place a decoration. Now, you're going to want something that's square. So I use this crate from Zeramin because we want a perfect 90-degree angle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this box, and we're going to try and find a 90-degree angle and place it as best as we can just to get a base started. Alright, once that's placed, we're going to go back into our decorations, and we're going to look for the display panel. I like to use the landscape one because it makes it the most easiest for this type of project. From here, you're going to want to make sure that you turn on surface snapping, and you want to turn on grid snapping. Now, we're going to want that at 45 degrees. That way we can ensure that we can rotate it 180 degrees perfectly to make sure that it is perfectly up and down. Alright, so then from here, what we can do is we can actually go behind and we can just remove that crate because we have our basic first panel placed, and it should be at a perfect 90-degree angle with the floor. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on it, but not move it, and you're going to incremental scale up twice. This is going to ensure that we have extra room to play with when we need to move it around later on. Once you have that done, you can go ahead and replace the decoration. Now from here, we're going to select constrained movement, and we're going to turn on grid snapping at 0.10. What this does, it allows us to move the display panel perfectly left and right, up and down, and in and out without changing the angle of the panel. So once you have that done, we're going to start moving our display panel into position. First thing we want to do is we're going to move it off to the left here and make sure that the display panel is slightly inside the wall. Then from here, what we can do is we're going to start moving it up into position where it'll be in its final place. You want to move it all the way up, and you want to make sure that part of the display panel is up inside the ceiling and in the position you want it to be. Alright, once you have that in place, you can go ahead and place the decoration. We'll just kind of move around a little bit here, and we're going to make sure that we duplicate the decoration. Now, the first thing you want to do here is you want to turn off surface snapping, because if you don't, it's going to mess a lot of things up, and it'll get weird angles and all that other stuff. So from here, you can actually just back out right away. And then we're going to go ahead and hit duplicate again. This will ensure that it won't surface snap to any other position. Right away then, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do the constrained placement, and you're going to want to line it up with the other side on the right. And from here we can move it up and down and left and right, and it's going to be at the exact same angle as the other one that we already placed. Now, the great thing about constrained movement is when you're not holding down one of the directions, you can actually move the camera around freely without moving the actual panel. Now, what we want to do is we want to line it up, and we want them to overlap, because if we don't, you're going to get gaps, and the images won't line up perfectly. So when you see like this little like glitchy picture in between the two images, that's what we're actually looking for to ensure that the image is going to line up perfectly. Now from here, we can go ahead and just duplicate again, and we can just repeat the process all the way down. Now, just like the first two panels where they overlap in the middle, for all the other ones, you want to make sure that they're going to overlap on both sides, both top and middle. Now for the bottom two, it's only going to allow you to put it into the ground so much, but that's okay. We can have a little bit more overlap with these ones because we're going to be able to move it around and move the image inside of it later on. Alright, now that we have all our display panels in position, we can go ahead and start changing the image to the one that we want. So let's decide what we want to use. You're going to go ahead and select a panel and press 2 to edit content decorations and click swap image. Now there are a ton of images you can choose from. Typically the perfectly square ones work the best. Otherwise, when you get to the long ones, you kind of have like that gray area on the sides, and it just doesn't look as well in my opinion, but that's really up to you. I like to use this one here. I just think it's really cool in my opinion, so that's what we're going to go with. From here, you can actually go ahead and just change each individual panel to the design that you want to use. Alright, so from here, we're going to go into Edit Decoration Contents again by pressing 2. And you can see that there's Horizontal Offset, Vertical Offset, and Scale Image. Now for this one, we're going to scale the image all the way up to 4. Now once you have that done, you can tell that Horizontal Offset's going to move the image left and right, and Vertical is going to move it up and down. Now since this is the top portion of the display, we're going to move our Vertical Offset all the way up to 1 to see the most of the picture. Then we're going to go ahead and move our horizontal offset to where only the left side of the image is showing on the panel. Then we're going to go ahead onto the right side and we're going to repeat the process with scaling the image all the way up to 4. But in this case, we're going to move our horizontal offset off to the left and then bring the image all the way down. And you're going to see that it doesn't line up perfectly, but that's okay. That's why we increased the size of the panel earlier so that we can go ahead and move it into position later on. Then we once again just repeat the process. We scale the image up to 4. We're going to move the horizontal offset off to the middle. And then the vertical offset, we're just kind of vaguely line it up to where the image matches up to where it increases the size and starts to come together. And you're going to do that on both sides. And when you start doing this, you're going to see that that glitch is still in the middle. But don't worry, once we move it around and they start lining up, that glitch will pretty much disappear. Once again, we're going to scale our image to 4. We're going to move our vertical offset to get it into place and our horizontal offset to put it into the middle. And then we're going to get this last panel here on the right. Alright, now that we have our image basically completed, we can go ahead and fine tweak it with the constrained movement tool that we used earlier. Alright, now that we're ready to tweak it, we want to go back into constrained movement, and we want to make sure that we turn grid snapping off. This will allow us to move the image freely without it snapping at that 0.10 that we had it set at earlier. As you can see, when I'm moving it left and right, it moves really smoothly and very intricately. So we can go ahead and move that panel to go ahead and line up the image with the one on the right to where it comes together. Now we can go ahead and do this with all the other panels as well to make sure that they line up perfectly. Now if you move it too far, you'll see that there's a gap on the left-hand side, but that's okay because the panel on the right, we have a little extra wiggle room as well. And you'll start to see as the images start lining up that glitch in the middle starts going away. Now I do have to say that this is the most tedious process of this entire project. Just make sure you're taking your time and to be sure to use the constrained movement tool from earlier. Now there will be times where you can't get it to line up perfectly with the constrained movement. In that case, you're going to go back into the decoration contents and you can move the horizontal or vertical offset just a little bit to try and maneuver it into place. Once you get everything lined up, you can kind of zoom in and see if you need to make any tweaks as possible. In this case, I noticed that this little left shoulder isn't perfectly lined up, so I'm just going to go ahead and move the display panel around with the constrained movement to get it lined up perfectly. Once again, I noticed on the right side I could use a little tweaking, so I got ahead and moved it into place. And then after that, we're all done. Your giant display is complete, and you have this really cool decoration to show off in your orbiter. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this tutorial helps you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to write down in the comments section below. Otherwise, you can catch me live here on YouTube and Twitch. Links are down in the description below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later.